Yeah, so but we do not have any apologies. In that case, we'll move to declarations of interest. Firstly, I just want to make a small note that I have, it could be perceived that I have a conflict of interest in item 12, which is my report asking the council to start the process of gathering information for local alcohol policy, because I work in the field. I don't think that there is any actual conflict, but I want that just to note that I'm aware that a conflict could arise, and if it does, I will manage it. And I believe, Alex?
Yeah, similar. I don't think it will be, but just as is perceived, I know some of the students for item 11 not mentioned it.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be an apology for early departure.
Oh, yes. Well, have that noted, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, would someone like to move that we accept that apology for early departure? Joe, and seconder. Jackie. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thanks, Kelly. All right. The next item is confirmation of previous minutes. Do we have any discussion on that? No discussion. Happy to move. Jackie, seconded by Alex. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And so now we'll move to our first public forum, which we agreed to give 7 minutes to the Eco Action Nursery Trust. So David Newton, along with local students, will provide the board with a presentation of the work carried out by the trust. So David, I'd like to invite you. And so you have 7 minutes, including questions.
Alicia, please.
Cool. Kia ora, I'm Alicia from Rangiburu, and we're here today from the Eco Action Nursery Trust. Yeah.
We have a
Just bear with me and I'll get the PowerPoint.
We just the computer doesn't work as quickly as Cindy's mine does.
we just wait until we.
Just bear with me. Do you want to sit at the table?
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Cool. We'd like to thank you, Waitai Coastal Community Board, for helping us so we can help support our community.
So, Eco Action.
Next slide, please.
Students from 20 schools plot on and plant out native trees into the Christchurch Red Zone.
Next slide, please.
Eco Action arranges land to be planted on from both CCC and LINS at QE2 and Kainara Crescent. Students and community collaborate to plant and maintain the site.
Eco Action has a successful history of planting at the QE2 Adventure Nature Trail. These successes include 2.5 metre tall ribbonwood, fruiting coprosma, flax flowering, and the return of bird habitats.
Hello, I'm Tony from Christchurch Girls High School. So this year, 18,000 trees were planted. This is projected to be 30,000 trees next year, and in 2024, 64,000.
Below you can just see the schools involved and also just list out the sponsors involved. CLS Canterbury Landscapes, CCC, Enviro Waste, Isaac Construction, Schools, Mainland Tank and Drums Limited, and LINS. Thank you from all of us at Eco Action Nursery Trust.
Hi, I'm Max from Shirley Boys High School, and next year we'll need $21,000.
I'm Silas, and I'm also from Shirley Boys, and we have a couple of pictures on the back of the pamphlet of some planting sessions that we've done.
And thank you very much for the opportunity to come and present to our local board. We've got a lot of local schools involved in this program, and this is a selection of some of them that turn up in the middle of the games, very busy at the time. So thank you very much for having me. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. It's a great way to start off the term. Or if you would like to come to the table, if anyone would like to come to the table, who's going to answer questions. All right, so it's Alicia, is it?
Yeah.
And Thomas.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a few minutes. How many minutes? We have 3 minutes for questions. Yanni has one for you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for the wonderful work that you do. As someone who was on the QE2 hearing panel, it's really great to see the progress around that master plan. Just in terms of the question I had in regards to your financial requirements to grow and plant trees, have you done an assessment of how much value you've actually contributed? Like I see you've put what the funding cost has been, but in terms of the impact that you've made, in terms of the work that you've done, has that been valued so we can see the the wonderful quantum of help that you've given the city?
Oh, I'm going to answer that question. As part of the charitable trust reporting, we report each year on the number of hours that is provided by volunteers. We then value that at $22 an hour, and it's in the region of $230,000, $270,000. Don't quote me on that, it's off the top of my head, but it's in that sort of region. So thousands of hours valued at that money, and we have a benefit. But of course, the bigger benefit is the number of trees we plant and the fact that we maintain them afterwards. We don't just abandon them.
Thank you very much. Celeste.
Congratulations. I've come along to a couple of your plantings, and I have to admit that every time I've got in there, you guys have already done everything. So it's been quite incredible. In terms of where the budget's at, do you feel like, is there a shortfall in 2024?
At the moment, we have yet to fund 24. We've got 23 sorted out. That's till March 23.
So the total, if I'm reading this correctly, is it 21?
Yeah, 21.
And that's to scale up further, is it?
No, just
to maintain. And would you benefit from additional funding above that? Would you have the capacity to deliver if you've got more funding? No pressure.
We run on a promise. We over deliver and under promise, and so we certainly don't want to step outside the budget that we've actually got in place. I'd be slaughtered by my accountant who's actually standing in the room. He's the one who's looking grumpy. So yeah, look, we don't want to grow too fast. We've doubled every year, and we want to just have a pause and make sure that we can put these plants in the ground.
Okay.
All right, Tom, we're slightly out of time, but you had a quick question.
Yeah, you received the funding for the TTK group.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
I'm not sure whether the rest of everyone know that there could maybe be some leftover from that fund that may be accessible. Can you apply that out?
So I can partly answer that. So that's kind of tied up within the co-governance. So depending on the decisions that council make in going forward into the co-governance will determine any decision making over the fund and future funding. Because at the moment, there's no group with delegatory decision for that pot of money. So I've asked the question and I'm waiting for the answers to come back.
Okay, thank you.
So
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you mind if we leave?
Not at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Well done, everyone.
Good luck with you.
All right, thank you. And we also have a deputation by appointment. The New Brighton Filtridge co-chair of the North Beach Residents Association is going to speak to two items, and because it's two distinct items, I'll say that there's up to 10 minutes for presentation and up to 10 minutes for questions. that's not a target if we actually and properly deal with your concerns.
So which one shall I talk to first?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay, I'll talk about what should be the most relatively straightforward one, and this is regarding the sort of issue in terms of dog control. So we, this goes back to sort of April, I think, when we made a submission. Council sent through their formal response. We pushed back on that because it was basically business as usual. We met with Lionel Bridger at Animal Control, and that was a very productive meeting. And at that meeting, there was not only ourselves from North Beach, but also Waimeri, New Brighton, Residents Association, South Shore, and also the Trust, the Estuary Trust. And so the outcome from that is the sort of the write-up that you would have received and presumably read. So as far as today's submission is concerned, and Cindy was sort of saying, well, everything seems to be in hand. No, it's not. So really what we asking from the community board is your assistance and really us being able to have substantive and meaningful conversations with council staff in terms of the comms division and also Parks and Recreation to bring about the changes that we think are sort of essential in terms of implementing the sort of comms issues that we've identified, which is problematic. So before then, I just want to go back to effectively what are the main issues that we're facing in terms of dogs on the beaches. And not just the beaches, also in terms of Bottle Lake and also the estuaries, so the reserve, the spit itself. The first one would probably be dog attacks. There's a lot more of it happening than you think, and typically it's dog on dog attacks. And so far, fortunately, we haven't had attacks as far as children are concerned, but sort of that is clearly a fear, and that sort of in terms of the paper that you've read, we had sort of somebody concerned about her 2 children. Second issue would be around dog feces. So if the first one is about dog behaviour, this is about human behaviour. Dogs like to have a shit. I mean, it's part of their nature. There's nothing, that's one of dogs' great joys in life, is to have a decent shit. That's what they do. But in terms of picking that feces up, that's responsibility as far as the owners are concerned. And it's particularly a problem with Bottle Lake, where for some reason, dog owners think that they have agency to not pick up their dog feces and just continue as far as the walk is concerned. Okay, the third one would be about keeping your dog under effective control. And by that, I mean the dog not rushing out onto the beach when you let it out of the car park, which happens all the time, or sort of the dog bounding up to sort of young children, that sort of thing. This is called effective control. Interestingly, in terms of the council, in terms of the website, it's actually not defined. You're meant to have your dog under effective control, but it's not actually defined. And so our interpretation of that is that a dog is able to respond to voice command, sit, heel, those sort of things. That is where, you have, so that's fundamentally a training issue. Okay, so what are the things, if we roll back from that, what are the things that you need to know if you're going to own a dog in Christchurch? The first one is going to be that you're going to need to license your dog. Yeah. And the thing with licenses is that it's not an agency to do what you want. Any license, be a car license, a dog license, a license to drive to pilot an aircraft, means that there are certain rules that you have to follow. And it's the same thing with dogs. Yeah. So, and so that then follows, what are your responsibilities? What are the rules that you need to follow? Okay, well, first of all, one, pick up your dog feces. There are certain areas where you can go and exercise your dog, and there are certain areas where you can't. And then the third one, again, is sort of that your dog must be under effective control at all times. Now, the thing is that if you want to find out what your responsibilities as far as the dog owner is concerned, you have to go into the bylaw. You have to delve down into the bylaw. You go onto the website, and there's sort of, you can adopt a dog, presumably from Ukraine if you wanted to. You can read to your dog. But in terms of your responsibilities, there's nothing. The other thing that I would say that you need to know as far as being a dog owner is concerned is how to look after your dog. You know, what's the diet? What's your exercise? What is the sort of social conditioning that your dog needs to do? You know, to understand your dog is a social animal. It's fundamentally a pack animal. And with all packs, there is an alpha. And as a dog owner, you are alpha. You know, your dog needs to understand that. You need to understand that. So that's a training issue.
Would you like to take, sorry to interrupt, but would you like to take questions about this?
Yeah.
And then move on to the housing issue? Or
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll deal with this, and then we'll go on to the housing issue.
We only got a few minutes.
Okay. Well, that's fundamentally that is what needs to happen in terms of as far as particularly the website, in terms of the signage. What we're simply asking from the community board is that you put us in touch with those people, with senior staff, those who make the decisions in terms of for example, the website, so those sort of issues can be addressed. We believe that if that is addressed, then the dog issues, the dog problems are going to be resolved. So it's fundamentally, it's a comms issue. We just need to talk to them, have some substantive and meaningful discussion.
As I said to you in email, I've seen the kinds of issues that you refer to. So my youngest son is severely autistic and used to come to Brighton Beach a lot.
Yeah.
But he got scared by a dog running over the sand dunes because they'd open the car door and that has happened repeatedly. And so now he won't even get out of the car. And we try to go to an area of the beach that's quiet, and that's the same parts of the beach where people think that they can just let their dogs do what they like. And it is tremendously frustrating. And as somebody who used to have dogs, I understand the joy of a dog wanting to get out of the car and how much easier it is to let them just run. But so I very strongly support the intention of what you're asking for. I'll take questions from other members now.
I'm going to ask Cindy if she can organise staff to do
that. I'm pretty sure that we can have that as a resolution after the.
Yeah, so I was going to say, once we get to the item of correspondence, I've included a note to the resolutions following the agenda being published to say that I will work with Philip and the appropriate staff. I've already spoken with those to organise a meeting like you have had with Lionel, to discuss the concerns and hopefully move forward with.
And Lionel also needs to be there. Absolutely. I mean, because I think one of the problems is that animal control, who get their resourcing through licensing, they don't have any overview or really input in terms of signage or in terms of what goes on the website. And so there's a disconnect in terms of messaging and what the animal control would like. And so
I've given a heads up to 4 different units and they're all happy to meet. So that's parks, that's Lionel, that's bylaws, the signage. So if that's the will of the board when we get to the next item.
Have you had any discussions with any kennel clubs or anything like that about what might be effective?
No, but I mean, I think those would come up. So for example, I've mentioned training and how, in terms of the website, I mean, it's nice that you can read to your dog and there are benefits around that. But I think far more importantly is some sort of guidance around, training and resources that you can use, even if you have to pay for it, but understanding that your dog needs to be trained.
Yanni, I think you had a question, and then Suresh.
Oh, no, it's the same.
I just wanted to check, you want questions of staff now as well, or just of the
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, what concerns me is looking at the information is out of the 533 complaints of a dog attack, nearly a third have been in the New Brighton area, and we're going into summer. So I wonder if there's anything we can do in the short term to say we actually need an increase in patrols, which seems to be the kind of problem, is that we don't have people patrolling enough to monitor the behaviour to make people comply. So
is that something for discussion with as part of those meetings?
Well, I don't think it needs discussion. It needs actually action on the ground. That's I guess the concern. I mean, I don't know if we can just ask if they can just employ an additional animal enforcement person over the summer period for Brighton, or allocate additional resource. But
Cindy has.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I've spoken with the team leader of animal management, and they have got somebody in Brighton every day. They'll have somebody out here, so they are aware and they're already onto it.
Yeah, that was when that came through in terms of our meeting too.
That's good.
And with those figures as well, is there any figures that relate to repeat offenders? Because 177 cases in Brighton, it could be six dogs and repeat offenders compared to 177 separate ones.
I think actually, I mean, the report from council actually alluded to this. Part of the problem is unfortunately New Brighton residents. And so, for example, when in the week of the meeting, when there were the 2 dog attacks, dog control, animal control knew who those owners were, and they were locals. And so I think, I mean, unfortunately, that's sort of part of the makeup in terms of the New Brighton community. So yeah, not sure what to do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the enforcement options are for in terms of being a repeat offender. I'd like more information about that. Do we have any further questions on this? Because I'm aware we need to move on to the housing issue. No further questions? All right. Well, thank you. Would you like to address your?
Sorry. So just in terms of what you will make a resolution in terms of
yes.
As far as that
so we have a few ideas here, and so we will arrange a meeting for that you've asked for.
Okay, I think it needs to be a series of meetings because you're talking to Parks and Parks and Reserves, and also the comms team. So it needs to be sort of triangulated, if you like.
Yeah, and we will get information about what enforcement options are, yeah, does anybody else have any? And we've noticed that we've noted that there is additional enforcement. Do you have any other suggestions on this matter? We can at the end of your next item, we can deal with the resolutions. Just to note it down
at the meeting, if we could just get an update on the dog parks in the area, exercise areas, how they've been used, how they've been promoted, and if there's anything that we can do, because I'm mindful that there's a massive new dog park at school in Bexley, for example.
I
one
guess
in Rafferty, and it would be good just to get a sense of.
Can you raise that in members' info then? Joe?
And another thing which people are upset about is the lack of rubbish bins for them to put their doggies to in several areas. And I know at the end of South Shore Spit, the rubbish bin there just is overflowing with bags of it.
Yeah.
Whether it needs bigger bins and everything. So that's one thing that can be included in this whole process. A good place.
So we could ask for more information about that as well. So we'll note that down, and then we'll Cindy will draft up a couple of points in terms of resolution.
Okay.
And then we'll so if we move on to the housing now, where we're running over time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so the second issue is in terms that we're seeking that resource consent for 79 Marine Parade, that's the Williams Corporation development, is issued only if there is provision for adequate position for off-street parking. We don't understand how we got to this point. We understand the sequence, but we don't understand it, how the decision has been made. Okay, changes to the district plan following the national policy statement, urban development and the resource management enabling housing supply and other matters amendment 2021, sure. Okay, we don't have a problem with intensification. Good outcomes as far as the CBD at New Brighton is concerned. More people, more retail, more vibrant CBD. Get that. But why are these developments being allowed to happen without adequate off-street parking? I mean, this is New Brighton. We don't have a public transport infrastructure. A bus might come once an hour. So if you live here, you need a car. Might be different in the CBD, but it's not true as far as New Brighton is concerned. So, and as it is, there are adequate provisions within the MPS and the RMA, which could have meant that council would have ensured that MPH developments needed to have off-street parking. Now, curiously, these MDH developments were allowed to go ahead despite the council's own draft housing and business choice plan change, which said that there would be no MDH developments because it was deemed a natural hazard, and so consequently fitted under the Coastal Hazards Adaptation Program. But for some reason, they've been allowed to happen. So why have they been happened? Apparently the mentality is that if you don't need off-street parking because people can park on the road or in nearby car parks. And I think it's interesting here, if you look at the Williams Corporation developments along Marine Parade, there are 3 of them. Each of them is opposite a car park. Now, car parks have, a specific function. They're there for a reason. And as we've pointed out in terms of our submission, the car park at North Beach is already at capacity. Yeah. And we've already had this, identified this as a problem. Sort of about 18 months ago, in terms of submission as far as freedom camping was concerned, we asked that no freedom camping be allowed in the car park. Last Thursday, driving home, 7 freedom campers, motorhomes in the car park. Now you add that, sort of the 10, 12, for example, car park, cars that are going to be parked there in terms of, as far as this new development is concerned, you're just exacerbating an existing problem. I'd like to make a point too that car parking has a cost. If you, like me, have a garage, there's a cost to that. Yeah. And what the Williams Corporation have done is effectively they've transferred that cost onto the council and onto the community. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that's very fair. I don't think that's an adequate response, either in terms of the Williams Corporation, who are clearly not good corporate citizens, or in terms of...
I just want to you only have qualified privilege when you're in this at a board meeting, so just for your... Yeah,
okay, all right.
Just be careful with what you say.
Yeah.
You can be very clearly that you have you're able to express a strong opinion.
Okay.
But
yep. Okay. Understand. Okay. So but you would agree that what they've done is effectively transferred that cost from them and also to people who invest in their properties. It's interesting to look at the breakdown in terms of people who buy. As far as the Williams Corporation properties, they are the 2nd largest developer in the country. And in terms of their build cost is something like 58% of the building cost of their nearest competitors. So they have, if you like, a strong business case around not providing car parks.
Yeah, the model is enabled by the abolition of...
And so it's consequently enabled by, in terms of the council making these sort of decisions. And so what we're seeking is that, I'm sorry, enough is enough, and particularly as far as North Beach car park is concerned, we can't have any more cars in that car park.
So bear in mind, we only have
Yep.
a few minutes. What would you like from the board?
Well, again, I'm not sure in terms of your capacity, in terms of whether, I mean, ideally, we just would like it stopped. Okay, so in terms of where it is, in terms of we're not sure where it is, in terms of the resource consenting, but I mean, the council itself has indicated that they want to hold on this in terms of that decision as far as sort of 13th of September, when they rejected their own plan is concerned. They're saying, no, enough is enough in terms of MDH developments. We need to reconsider this. So I think, you know, we're saying actually council itself, within that staff, in terms of planning itself, they need to put a hold around as far as issuing resource consent is concerned, needs to have off-street parking.
My understanding of and councillors may want to chime in here, but the rejection of Plan Change 14 was the rejection of the MPSUD by the council, but the council doesn't quite know what's going to happen yet. And there's various, the government could legislate to require it, which has bipartisan support in Parliament. So goodness knows what that might look like.
Could you use four words?
Huh?
Not MP?
Oh, well, you mean the National Policy Statement on Urban Development? Okay. Yeah, sorry. I mean, in terms of where the council is at, I think it is possibly acknowledging the situation that you're in and that the city finds itself in, but in a bit of limbo. Would that be fair, Celeste Campbell?
Oh, yep. I mean, I can't comment on what's happening next because obviously some of that's happening behind the scenes, but in terms of your concerns, I certainly see where you're coming from. I think what would be useful for us perhaps is to get some advice on what the options could be, because I see that you had policy 11B was we should be mitigating the impacts because we are, in some respects, our hands are somewhat tied. Nonetheless, I think we should look at how we can ensure that the types of development that are being done fit for purpose in the local communities where they're being done. So are we able to get some advice in terms of what we can do in terms of requiring adequate provision of parking as part of that consenting process? Because we need a bit of advice on that because the landscape is so complex with things changing, and we might then be able to feed some of that, and probably so now that if we have an external party coming in and deciding what we do with that housing, but we might be able to then feedback some of that back through to the next part of the process.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, at this point, I think asking for more advice in terms of what our options are is probably as much as we can do. You know, and acknowledging that the effect that it is having and is likely to have on residents.
And in relation to the specific one as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yanni?
Yeah, thanks. Just to be clear, are you aware of a consent being issued for this development?
Our understanding, because and again, thank you for the accepting the submission late, because only a couple of weeks in about 13th, 14th of October, Williams Corporation sort of made a presentation to a meeting of the North Beach Residents Association, and they mentioned then that it was going through resource consent as far as that development is concerned. So currently on their website, no detailed plans are concerned. You know, there are no detailed plans as far as that is concerned. Obviously, there are two other developments, so we're going to be finished.
The board could ask, we could ask staff to consider.
Well, you'd assume that if
to notify publicly, maybe limited or otherwise. And I mean, it would be good to find out the consent status. From my reading of previous consents, the council staff have generally, I think, taken an approach of.
Can you just be careful how you?
When it comes to the assessment around the impacts of either no car parking or the significant reduction in car parking required, my view of the assessment has generally tended to be not precautionary about the impact, but over reliant on modelling that just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. So in terms of the actual behaviour at the location, right?
So the question is
the question is really, I guess, for the board is, can we find out what's happening in terms of the consent status? Can we ask consideration for it to be at least limited notified, if not publicly notified? And can we ask for an understanding of how the traffic impacts are going to be assessed based on the concerns of the community around car parking?
Do you have a question, Joe? Is it
No.
So what I might do is move to board discussion, and thank you very much for.
Okay, sorry, I'd just like to make one final point as far as Yanni is concerned. I totally agree in terms of the process that you're sort of suggesting. The other thing is that, and we alluded to this in terms of the submission, that the council's actual parking policy and parking management is actually behind the 8 ball in terms of what's happening. So they're sort of consenting these developments, but in fact, no consideration, overarching consideration is taken in terms of car parking and parking management.
They do actually have a very clear suburban strategy, but it's probably I'm probably the minority around that.
All right, so I'll ask you to sit back in the public gallery now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to Phil. When you have issues, please do approach us, and we'll try and slot you in.
Okay, so in terms of the follow-up, as far as that is concerned, again, Cindy will get back. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. We have some draft resolutions which we can discuss. We've got that the Waitai Community Board received correspondence from North Beach Residents Association in relation to dog control education and signage in the Greater New Brighton area. 2, received joint correspondence from Beach Residents Association and North Beach Surf Lifesaving Club in relation to the proposed MDH Development 79 Marine Parade, and referred staff for investigation and response back to the Community Board by way of input memorandum. And then part C, the Waitai Community Board 1, received correspondence from the North Beach Residents Association in relation to dog control, education, signage in the Greater New Brighton area. 2, notes that staff are aware of the request to meet North Beach Residents Association and will work with them to organise a meeting to discuss their concerns. 3, received the joint correspondence from North Beach Residents Association and North Beach Surf Lifesaving Club in relation to the proposed MDH recommendation at 79 Parade, and refer to staff investigation and response back to the Board by way of the council. I know I just read both of those. One of them is the modified one from the recommendation. And then I had issues around it, the board. That the board requests staff advice on what the community board's options are in relation to the consent at 79 Marine Parade at 79, isn't it? 79 Marine Parade. And the second one is an update on the status of the resource consent for the development of 79 Marine Parade. We'll just wait for those. You want us to pause?
Yes, please.
While she's pausing, I just think it'd be a good idea to have a briefing on rules in that whole Waitai.
So we have a bit of discussion while these resolutions being drawn up. I think it would be good to have a briefing in terms of what is actually possible, because my understanding is that parking minima have just been abolished. So there is essentially, there's no rules around parking. So enterprising organisations may choose to develop where there's large public car parks nearby, and that we may need to find ways to mitigate those effects.
But also it's in the floodplain, and I thought you were going to do like for like. So how does that happen?
I
I'd
actually
like to know that stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to know all that stuff too. I don't think there's to be any disagreement from members wanting a briefing about housing rules in the community board area. No, so well, I'll just write it down. Is there any further discussion about the anybody wanting to add anything to the resolution? Because I have to do it by consensus if we can.
Does it need to refer to that the parking plan that was referred to?
The parking,
That would be covered as part of the, yeah.
I assume that would be covered.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so it's dealing with the relevant unit.
Yeah.
So they'll just wait on an official action received from the board following this meeting.
All right, thank you very much. And so, and in terms of the, so there's, so we've got both things together. Any more on?
Did you all cover this?
I would like to add requested animal management team provide advice on 1, enforcement options for repeat offenders, 2, the number of dog parks in the Greater New Brunswick area, how well they are being used and how they are being promoted, and 3, the possibility of having additional dog bins installed in hotspots in the Greater New Brunswick area. Have we missed anything?
What about the comms?
Would that be covered in the meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll move it.
You could move that if you like, Tim. The resolution's not finished yet. Though.
I'm just going to put in the comment that there were concerns with the development opposite the ramp at New Brighton, the same kind of thing as parking issues. And when I inquired about the consent to that time, it was non-notifiable. So there was nothing that could be put into it.
And the question that Tim raised about the like for like and floodplain would say if it's not what's the word? If it's not compliant if they've had to seek resource consent, then you would affect if it's got quite a lot of it's got less than minor effect, then it's going to have to be notified, right? So we just need more information. Right, Tim's moved that. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Greg. All right, any debate? No debates. All right, I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. All right, thank you very much. And thank you, Philip, for your time.
I voted in the affirmative, by the way.
Sorry, what was that, Kelly?
I support it.
Okay, we'll make sure your notes recorded then.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving on now to staff reports. So we have, so firstly, there's the Chris report, confirmation establishment of community board funding pools. Do you want to give some background?
Yeah, sure. So largely I'll take the report as read, but as you're a new board entirely after the election, you're required to establish your funding pool. So normally this is done at the start of the financial year. Some of the boards that are continuing in name, theirs are carrying on, but the 3 brand new boards will be needing to consider them. So what this report, consider it as almost a day one. It sets out how much funds, or it proposes how much funds you should have available for your DRF. And just working through, it notes that, apologies, just working through it notes that a component is made up of from Coastal-Burwood and also with Linwood, and there's been an apportionment from the Linwood Central Heathcote funds. And then noting from the previous board where funds were tagged. So essentially we're asking you to confirm that that continues. So there's some of that's made up of events that are proposed and other bits. And also this report will be establishing your youth development fund, which we receive a number of applications to, and also a Kuru fund, which was a relatively new funding for the Coastal-Burwood board in the previous term, established near the end of the term, but it's very similar to the, I want to say light bulb moment, but different boards got different names that Linwood had in the last term as well. So that's the kind of projects, quick wins, trialing things in community with a $500 cap on there. And I think maybe if I hand over to you now, Chair, to talk about, you have a recommendation to add as well.
Yes. What I would prefer, as a matter of principle, that the board are people who sign off on decisions. It's previously delegated to the community governance manager, and irrespective of who the person is, it's just that it is a board. I think it should be a board decision. So if you have noticed in the other fund, it is 3 members making the quick sign off, 1 from each ward. So my suggestion is that we use the same process for each, and that means that all 3 non-councillor community board members will sit on that, effectively a little subcommittee. And so in 2 sets, we decide on those pools of funding. Just means you get oversight and some input and get information, and that if anything end up coming back to the board, you will have seen it. Is there any discussion about or any questions of Chris?
Yeah, and I just had a question as well of and entirely up to the board as well. You've got a $350 cap for the youth development fund proposed, and whether you wanted to match the Kuru and make that 500. The alternative is anything over 350 comes to the whole board. And the only other comment I'd really quickly make is, whilst a subgroup of the board will make the decision, everything's reported back through your area report, so you'll all get oversight afterwards as well.
Yep. Any questions of Chris, Jan, and then Celeste?
I'm just not sure what's behind the delegation of the youth one to a small group of people. Like in the past, from my experience being on the board, generally the youth ones are ones that most board members want to ask questions on.
Yes, so in the previous term, so in terms of the staff recommendation, in the previous term, the majority of the boards gave a delegation up to a certain amount to the governance manager. The reason behind that was to allow for a quicker turnaround for the youth applications that were coming in. Often, if they came in sort of later or closer to their event, it meant that the turnaround could be quicker to provide the funds. It also meant that there's less formal reports that were required for to be written and authorized, and part of that as well, there's the sign-off processes that we go through for reports as well. So that's what adds in a time delay. So that's from the staff perspective of a delegation. That's why I think the majority, I can't recall what Limited Central Heat did, but the majority of the boards gave up to a point for the governance manager, which tended to be the more local events that the groups were, the youth were attending. But then after that, if they were more international or larger scale things, that came to the board for decision.
A question from, Jackie.
Not so much a question, but my take on this and my recommendation would be that we go with the delegation, because that's got a fairly quick turnaround, so it doesn't come to the board as a whole. It can be done by email, it can be done within 24 hours. And my recommendation would be to increase the youth development fund one to the same as the Kuru, and have them both going on that email rotation. So anything over 500 comes to the board, and under.
So there's 2 issues, right? There's
yes,
delegation.
2 issues. So I'm saying both funds have 3 people allocated to them that can do a quick turnaround via email within 24 hours. And my other side to that is, let's increase the youth development fund $1 to $500, so that anything over 500 comes to the full board. That would be my take on that.
Is there any? Hold on. I'll just see if anybody else has any questions or anything first. Does anybody have different view of what Jackie has expressed? Question, yes, question.
Why was it, is there a reason for that? This might seem silly, but a reason why it was 350 to begin with?
Yeah, and Katie, I might ask to chip in if I steer slightly wrong, but whilst it's not set in stone what different applicants are provided, there's generally a sort of a local and then a domestic and then an international, and we tend to apportion to those levels. The 500, Katie, would be for your internationals if they're going overseas.
Welcome to join us at the table.
Yeah.
Thank you. So like Chris said, there's no predetermined amount that we would grant to anyone because we assess each application as it comes in. But generally speaking, you're looking between 1 to 150 for a local event, 250 for a South Island based event, and then sort of 250 for a North Island based event. So I think the reasoning behind it was a lot of those smaller events we often had shorter timeframes around. And so having the delegation up to 350 meant we could get a quicker turnaround on those more local events. And then the sort of international or which would have a recommendation usually over 350 would come to the board for a decision.
Okay, thank you. Yoni, do you have a question?
So just to be clear, we can actually give an email delegation. That's within standing orders.
Yep.
And I guess the question I'd have then, if it's just going to be done by email, why do you need just to have 3 members? Like, could it go to all the members to have a choice to? Because it seems like it's like, what would be the problem with just having it be emailed around and then the straight majority?
I don't have any firm attachment to that, but the issue is that does that mean that you have to have a reply from every member?
No, you could just make it up to with a minimum of 3 members,
So
something that you could put in there.
Yeah,
but then that would give everyone a right to express their view. But if people didn't, you've still got a minimum of people that could make the decision.
Well, possibly another way would be that if everybody gets notified, and so that everybody can express a view, but the 3 people get sign off, because getting 9 people's feedback, especially councillors who are very busy, when the object of having that arrangement is that it's fast, so that the young people can get the support. How, for instance, how expensive flights are now. Being able to move quickly is pretty important. Did you have something?
I was just going to support Jackie's both of her recommendations. I personally would prefer it to be rather, I think the point of it's to be efficient. So then by adding complexity, it needs to kind of work against that. So because anything over and above that does come to everyone. So that would be my preference.
The only other issue I was going to raise is often, from my experience, where concerns have been raised is where we get like 10 young people all from like a school, and it's quite a huge drain on the resource. And then there's kind of like, so I just wondered if there was a way in which if there wasn't like bigger group one with lots of individuals for the same thing.
That would be more money, wouldn't it?
So again, we have a process around group applications.
So group applications in the Waitai Coastal-Burwood Community Board area, which would be obviously asking you to continue with, is when there's a group of 4 or more young people from the community board area. It doesn't get funded from the Youth Development Fund. It actually comes as a discretionary response fund application. So that's a full board decision.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, thanks for that. Yeah, it's good. Cool. Before we talk about the motion, did anybody else have anything?
I've got a question for you guys from Linwood. Did you fund people who lived in the area but went to school at the area and it was a school project? Did you have any issues with that?
I have to ask Yoni or
no, we funded people who lived in the area. That is we fund people, not schools. Yeah. So we don't know what the
that was the same in Spring History. All right, so Jackie, are you happy to move the changing it to 500 on each and using the same process for both? Yes. Then so before you formally move it, I would like an indication on who would like to be, of the non-councillor members, who would like to be on each of those. So remember, you can only be on one, and it needs to be one person from each ward. Alex?
And I'll just explain the reasoning behind this as well, is I'd be quite keen for the Koru Fund. Well, I've already seen at this meeting say that all three of the people for the Youth Development Fund I know, and I feel like that would just keep arising throughout the term, and that's one of the reasons I'm appreciating on the Koru Fund rather than the Youth Development Fund.
All right, noted. Rick?
Yeah, I'm really keen on the youth fund myself.
Whatever.
Whatever. All right. Jackie? All right. So I'll just jot it down. So we have so that means we've got one person on.
So it's just the bunch of members.
We need somebody from Linwood for Koru.
So Jackie on one of those two.
That's what you want for.
So I'm going to nominate you, Jackie, for Koru, and that means we need someone from Burwood. But Greg, you want to be on you?
That's all done.
It's all done. Yep. Okay, let's wait. Happy to move.
All right. So you happy to move that?
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder?
Sorry, are we going to put something about the rest of us being notified, or?
Well, we can do that as a matter of course, if you like, but.
Could we have it recorded so it's formalised?
Are you happy with that, Jackie, as the mover of the motion? You're happy to add, as all board members will be notified of, through Community Board Advisor, will be notified of applications and decisions.
Yes. And provided the opportunity to provide feedback to the delegate and all.
We'll be clear on time, Yanni.
I don't-
Just
I-
turn around.
No,
Hold on. If we're going to debate this, we weren't in the proper debate.
Well, no,
Okay,
but like,
so, Yanni, stop, please. Look, if we're going to debate, if we want to debate the motion, then because we're having a bit of back and forth. So, what I'm going to suggest then is, Jackie agreed with what I said to change the motion. So the motion is on the floor for debate. Now, Yanni, you would like to amend that final bit.
well, so I was just trying to get clarity.
So you
rather than debate it.
So you want to noted rather than part of the motion, is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I was just trying to get clarity around the process by which we would, if it got circulated to all members, whether there was an opportunity for us to provide feedback or not. I just wasn't clear from what was being put. So that was the intent of the discussion.
Okay, so the tension is that the process is supposed to enable fairly rapid feedback. The board members who are making the decision, if they can receive feedback in the same time. If you're not able to provide feedback within that kind of period, then I don't want it to be like, the point of it is not so that if you have concerns that, if you get to 48 hours later and you're like, hold on a second, you might concern.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. So I'm happy to abide by that rule. So I just think it needs to be clear in the note that that's the kind of protocol, is that the feedback needs to be received within how many.
Yeah. So do you have suggested wording? And feedback received within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yep. You happy with that, Jackie?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, and you're happy with that, Jan?
Yeah, that's
all right. So we had a seconder from Kelly.
Oh, sorry, I got that wrong.
No,
yeah. I'm happy to second it.
On this, which should be one working day. It's a Friday afternoon. You go away for the weekend.
Are you happy with that, Jackie? Yes, one working day. All right. Sorry, we'll get used to being within one working day. All right, I'm going to put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next we have is my question is about these funding applications. Is anybody wanting to speak against any of these applications? Is it any controversial? Anything controversial? No. So what I'm going to do is put both of those and ask for a seconder. Seconded by Alex. Any objections to that as process? No. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Thanks, Kelly. So now we move to the area report.
Number 10. Number 10, or did 9 and 10 together?
Did
Sorry,
9
I
and 10
just didn't
together.
understand that. Okay.
That's right. Sorry, Katie. Was there any bit of information that you wanted to provide for us? I'm sorry, I just.
No, I'm happy that you've moved it, and they've been waiting a wee while, so.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just was aware that you left, so that was your last item. I didn't want you to feel like you had wasted your time.
No.
Nice to see you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for your help before too. Right, okay, number 11, Waitai board area.
So typically, in the previous term, and I'm happy to take the steer from the board, but I'll generally take your area report as read. They provide good information on what's happening within the board area. So this is your first one. Occasionally through the area report, you'll be notified of upcoming consultations and things like that, and we may ask for a steer from you in terms of making submissions and things like that. But in today's case, I'll just take the report as read, and I'm happy to take questions if there are any from members.
Are there any questions of Chris's report?
And I should say as well, the rest of the team are here as well, so and Rory's online. So the area report is a combination of all of the work of the team, so they're here to answer questions as well.
All right, Alex and then Jan.
Yeah, I just had a question. I don't know if anyone has answered this. I was looking at the QE2 master plan as part of that. Welcome back. Yeah, welcome back. And I saw that years 1 to 3 have been funded. Is that correct? And the others haven't. I was just wondering how they work. Like, does that come to the board for the rest of the funding, or is that part of the long-term plan?
It'll be part of the long-term plan at council. So it'll be, I don't have the detail here, and I'm not sure if Jackie does. Jackie works in that space, but it'll be something that community and the board can advocate for through the annual and long-term planning process around funding.
So that route board plan sort of comes into play as well.
Yeah, so if members consider that as a priority, that's something you can use as a tool to, yeah.
Thank you.
So can I add to that, Chris? Because of COVID, a lot of projects were delayed, and some of those projects that were funded in that year 1 to 3 have been pushed out. So the board might like to ask for a briefing next year about that project in particular. We can start out.
Thank you.
Very much. Jan.
Thanks. Yeah, just to say, it'd be quite good to do a site visit to the QE2 area as well, just get an understanding of what's happening. Thanks for that. Thanks for the area report. Just wondered with the Bromley traffic plan, if we could be told who's actually on the community working party, what the key milestones are, and when the next updated, detailed information will be presented. I'm just really concerned that we don't have any visibility on this project at all, and it's been something that the previous board has been working on as one of the top priorities, and yet we still don't have any sense of the milestones. And this has been a repeated request that some of us on the board have repeatedly made it just about every community board meeting going back for about the last 4 months.
So I'll take that away as a note, as some sort of as an answer.
So can we, is it helpful if we formalise that request? I mean, we've already got it in the action tracker. We just don't seem to be getting the information.
Yeah, it is in the action tracker. So, and I know that that it is on the list of things to do. So I'm happy to leave it there. It's obviously something that's close to my heart as well. And yeah, very excited to hear that that Masons Road is going to be resurfaced. Just saying. Any other questions?
Just, sorry, just
All
want
of them.
to check in terms of stuff, like there's a lot of community events going on, and I'm just not, I guess going to the Avondale Community Garden was great, but I just don't quite know what the protocols are around events that the board's supporting in terms of openings. Like, do we get run sheets? Do we get especially invited as board members? Is there a protocol to put things in our diary? Just, it would be really good to know so that we're not missing out on being there at this time that we should be there, or like if we're not attending, we can let someone know to put apologies in.
Yeah, for sure. So I think some of that we can deal with probably outside of the meeting, but as you're a new board and with the new ward linking in, obviously we'll get to know the events that are happening. Where the board's invited, we'll add it to your schedule. We'll try and get it into your calendar so that you can attend. And some of it also depends on the type of event around what you're providing. So what you're provided. So it depends how you're invited and if you're given run sheets and things like that. So some of it's a bit of an it depends, but we're also looking at starting up again the weekend brief as well, which will be partly advising the community what's going on. You'll get a copy of that, so you'll see. And then separate to that, we provide a weekly schedule, which we try and add in events and information into there as well of things that are coming up. And I've got Emily just signalling.
Sorry, if I may, I've also been putting more things in the report and schedule, just so it's an opportunity to get to know some of the groups we've been funding over the last 3 years. So you can just turn up at those events. It's not, you don't have to go, it's just an opportunity to get to know those new groups that you haven't met before and see what the last previous was funding things went on.
Cool. And just in terms of the youth POE, I see you had one at the end of September. Were elected members invited to that, or are we invited to the next one in December, or what's the process around us as elected members being engaged with young people in our area?
So I think, yeah, do you want to come to the table? Maybe both of you can as well, Jackie. There is an update following that POE that's being prepared for the new board as well. Plans for that.
So essentially it's a sort of a new project that's eventuated from a lot of reports we're getting about crime and antisocial behaviour happening, and then identifying a possible reason for this might be there's just not enough rangatahi to do in this area or in the east. And so as advisors put heads together and thought, what can we potentially do to work on this and provide more? Based on the success of the fresh events in the Linwood area and how they've been working, we thought perhaps we could try and extend that using Youth Week 2023 as, so it's kind of hang our hat on and say, let's work with all the youth organisations and community groups delivering youth stuff and say, would you like to do something for Youth Week? At the minute, it's really like embryonic, like just the start. We've only just got the groups together. I wasn't even there, Jackie was there for the meeting. So this second meeting is about kind of some of those groups consolidating that they do want to be part of Youth Week and they want to be part of this project. We then need to, I guess, next step will be actually approaching rangatahi and saying, would you like to be part of the steering groups? We really want to be, this to be for youth, done by youth, not just us with an idea. So it's very conceptual at the moment. And so the next step, well, I guess probably not, the next meeting is not a meeting we'd invite you guys to, because it's still very, very just developing. And then as we progress, that's when we'd get you all involved, if that makes sense.
Yes, I mean, I think we obviously we all want to see these kinds of things happening, but I think we also, speaking of myself, tend to talk quite a lot and have lots of ideas which may or may not be good. So it's just good to keep the groups up and running with some sense of their own culture before they start meeting with us.
Yeah, we're also conscious it's already quite staff heavy with all three of us kind of going, and we don't really have a steer yet on what your board priorities might be. So we don't want to go steering ahead, running ahead with this if it's actually not something you guys want to focus on. So just baby steps at the moment, but we'll definitely keep you updated, and when it's appropriate to start bringing you guys in, we definitely will.
I had a question around, I just noticed that there's quite a lot of funding towards that Youth Alive event, and I don't know anything about the event. So it's not something you need to answer now if you don't have any information, but I wouldn't mind knowing a bit more about the event. It's what it looked like, it it was 3,500 or something.
I thought it was less than that. That was the family fun night that was funded through the wastewater treatment plant funding. Was that the one? So it has been in a bit of a hiatus due to COVID. And I think they wanted to kind of bring it back with a bit of a bang. And we're looking to do some extra things and spreading the event into the car park area. So not just utilizing the indoor space, but also using some of the outdoor space. So that's why it was a little bit of a higher budget than what they've previously done. And they took advantage of basically that funding being available to be able to do some extra things for the community.
Okay, cool. That kind of makes sense. All right. I had a question about just in terms of the Chisholmwood School correspondence on the report. I had seen something around to our board members about about Stats New Zealand, about how the census, essentially was a very bad census. It was online first. And so communities like ours, particularly in places like Ralston and Aranui and Bromley, Wainoni, have been dramatically underrepresented. And within those communities, Māori Pacific communities in particular, disabled people have been underrepresented. And so the data census data has been used to make decisions around role expansions or not isn't reliable, and Stats New Zealand have said that. And so a lot of decisions being made based on the old census as well and projections. And I'm aware that Chisholm was not the only school in this situation. So what I was wondering if the board could ask staff to organise a briefing from Stats New Zealand about the impact of the census and the work that they're doing to try and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I know they've got a big project going on, and I just wanted to in light of that. So I'd be happy to move that as part of the resolution in terms of that the board requests, because it's on the board requests a briefing staff a brief from Stats New Zealand on the impact of 2018, on shortcomings with the 2018 census and what's been done to rectify it. I just remember what's there in terms of seconding from motions from the chair. So I'll just assume I need a seconder for now. Do we have anything else arising from the community governance report? I'll wait. Just do you have your hand up, or you're just thinking with your pen?
No, that's a hand up.
Yeah,
that's thinking.
Does anyone else have any questions? All right. Yeah.
Thanks. I was just wondering if this board has been briefed on the Streets for People projects, or how we get oversight in an area report of like different things going on. I guess as someone who's come from a Linwood board, from a different board, I just felt like in the area report, there's a number of things we've been working on that we don't have any visibility of in this report. And that's quite concerning when the actions are like really long overdue and we still don't seem to have any visibility. So I'm just wondering, like how we either ask for things to be in the area report, or things that we're aware that council's doing that we don't have visibility at a board, how we get visibility of. And like Streets for People around Kaiata would be one that, I would have expected to see some sort of information.
So if I may, so the Streets for People, it's included in your welcome pack for around Kaiata, so there should be some information in there. Rory from the team, he's online, so he's part of that steering group from a staff perspective. But it's still fairly early days. So he only has a lens over it from the community development side and linking in with the community. But if once you've had a look at the detail in the welcome pack, if you need some more information, then we can provide that for you. And similar with this being the start of a new term, if there's other elements of information that you need, we've shared a process with you earlier around getting some more information. In terms of area report. Typically, we'll use the area report as a vehicle to provide copies of memos or advice back from the organisation as well that you're asking for. So that's one of the methods that you'll receive it if it doesn't require a formal decision report. And then the other part of the area report is kind of updates that either work that we're doing or work that we know that's going on in the community. So if there's taking the streets for people and IATA, our team is a part of that project, so we'll be able to give you information on that. But yeah, have a look at your welcome pack. It's an overview of what's going on.
Are we able to do anything for the FM? I'm just mindful we've got a big community event coming up. Great time to engage and connect with people around what we're proposing to do there. Is that possible? I'm just raise it today.
Yeah, we got Rory online, so maybe.
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So Streets for People will be at a firm. Where we've got a stall set up there to begin the community engagement and start creating more awareness of what the project is and start working with that process. I also know the project manager is keen to give the board a briefing. I believe he's away on maternity leave. He's just had a newborn baby, so once he gets back, he is trying to get onto the briefing schedule for the whole project to update the board on where things are at.
Anything to add?
Thank you.
I think it's going to be a difficult one. Difficult project.
Yeah, potentially. All right. Any further on?
Just to follow on that questioning, other projects that were on the books 4 years ago that disappeared, how do we get those to be a discussion again? I'm just thinking of the corner of Breezes and Wanani Road. We've got about that much room between the curb and the fence. And the council were going to be buying a piece of land off the people, which is sole instance, but someone left staff and it disappeared. I'm just wondering, how do we get back into that sort of stuff?
I think we can put that into members' info.
Okay.
And the other, when you're talking about the welcome pack, I think there was no mention of the Brighton, Master Plan and Oromere. I could be wrong, but I couldn't see it.
Possibly, it's not going to contain every single project that's going on in all three wards. You know, there's a bit. So, as I said, if there's more information that's needed, as your chair said, you've got information exchange, but you can ask for information as well. So it's and also we do have a lot of staff that want to come and brief the board. It happens at the start of every term, so there are people waiting to give you information. We don't really need to be briefed on at the moment, but would it be good to just let everyone else know about their project?
Yeah, thanks for raising it. Right. Well, I'm going to put that motion then, that one, that the community board receive the report, and two, that we organise a briefing for staff. Do we have any debate? No. Okay. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. So now we move on to my report. If you read the report, you'll know about why I brought it. And I know that that there are other members who have a strong interest in this. Short version is that Parliament passed a law that was intended to give us communities a say on where, when, and how alcohol is sold in our communities. But the process became very legalistic. Hearings became very adversarial, and councils weren't able to put in place local alcohol policies, which is local determination of that. The government has now signalled has said that it's going to introduce legislation. Now, in my view, is that the council, it would be good if the council staff would start the process in order to get ready for a local alcohol policy development. There's already been a lot of work done on the previous local alcohol policy, but a bunch of stuff has changed, including we have a lot more robust evidence about where the harm comes from, which is predominantly from off licenses rather than from on licenses, and we're a long path further from the earthquake. where a lot of our on licenses also were demolished. And yeah, I mean, I was just asking that the board asks the council to ask staff to begin that process. And I doubt it will be controversial. I hope it's not controversial here, and I doubt it will be controversial at the council, because I think even people in the industry think want certainty. And that's the thing, is at the moment everything is fought hearing by hearing by hearing, and it's the only people it's good for are the lawyers. With that introduction, happy to take questions. All right, no questions. Well, in that case, I'm happy to move that. If someone would like to second.
I'd like to second that.
Someone would like to second it.
Teetotaler.
As teetotaler. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. I really appreciate that support. All right, so now we move into members' information exchange. We have a bit of time on our hands. And it is the first meeting of the term, and so there'll be lots of things that we want information on. So that the main function is to put stuff down for staff to get information for us, and that might include a briefing or something like that. And the other one is to share information with each other. What I am proposing to do is that we'll do a round, so everybody gets time to raise something. And then if we have time, we'll go back around. You don't have to provide or answer any questions, but everybody has the opportunity to. I'll hold my stuff, and I will start.
I think we should start with Kelly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll start with Kelly. Since Kelly is online, and it's hard for us to see your hand.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I'll defer till next time. I'm in Auckland at the airport, and I've got to go and catch a plane pretty shortly to come back to our wonderful city. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity, but I'll have to wait till next time. Thank you. Is that all right? Did you hear that?
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, does Alex, do you have anything? No? Tim?
Just a corner of Waitai Freezers, and we'll find out backwards of that. I think the address is 154 Freezers Road, but roughly there.
Question, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
I just was wondering if it would be all right to follow up, because around Q2 Park, there's obviously been a disc golf course put in, and I've just had a couple of questions surrounding parking around the beach road. It's got to, I would say I live there as well, so I don't know.
Yeah,
so do you think going to parking around there, because quite often on Saturdays, Sundays, cars are parking up all the way along Beach Road, and at the moment as well, you've obviously got the works on the water down Ascot Ave, so that's shut there. So I'm a bit worried about parking on the Beach Road at the moment.
If you have any information, you're welcome to come to the table.
Yeah, we can get in touch. We can get in touch with the Christchurch Disc Golf who facilitate that park, and they could put it out through their communication, perhaps to suggest people try parking maybe within the park until that work is done on Ascot Ave. Yeah. Okay. Is it getting really quite busy down Beach Road? Parking on both sides. Oh, okay. Well, that's a nice problem to have, isn't it? Like we put the disc golf in there. We wanted it to be there to bring people back into the park.
It's amazing. It's also like
yeah.
Going out and walk and stuff, so it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Can be in touch with them.
Thank you very much. Is that all you have?
That's all good. I'll keep stuff for February.
Yeah. Right, Joe.
Now, I've always got a good list. Be prepared.
We do have a bit of time, but we might have to pause halfway between.
Well, the first one I want some feedback on is our Facebook page. What are we going to do about it? If we can put a discussion.
Yeah.
Because we either close it down or change the name, and then I have to put everyone on as admin or however you want to run it.
So what? I don't have a view. I haven't formed a view as yet. I just wonder what is the purpose of the Facebook page?
Just engaging with people, sharing information.
As another means, as opposed to using just Newsline or whatever, another means of sharing sort of more routine information, localized information.
Just to add on to that for newer lenders as well as so the Facebook page is managed by you guys, so staff have zero input into it. So it can be an additional tool, as Joe said, for your engagement, and you can share your live stream and all of that. But it's your responsibility to answer any requests, and you don't get any support with it either. So it's just Joe's aware of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd want I want a clear kind of broad MOU about how we use it.
Alex, just wondering how many likes or followers it has at the moment. Like, are there a few many people following it, or
100.
We can look at the engagement.
Does anybody have a firm view either way? Like, do you like? I would be happy either way. Like, it would be great to. It's always good to have more ways of engaging and people connecting and connecting.
535.
I think it's a good thing, but I don't use Facebook.
if I could also just start, I think if we've already got it going, it would be a bit silly to stop it now, especially if we've got 535 people using it. It's just another means of people coming in and being able to get information in different ways.
Yeah, I guess we can discuss if we decide that we want to proceed with it and go to you in a sec, Jackie. We can discuss how we, in our discussions in the new year, we can work out how best to make it work. Jackie?
I just know your Facebook page sounds a lot more successful than the one we had running for Linwood, because there wasn't a lot of uptake with that. So if it was one like we had, then I'd be going, no, but from the sounds of it, you've got a lot more followers and you've had a lot more engagement. So I'd be interested in maintaining and having a look at it.
And it's a matter of everyone contributing to it as well, because a lot of it fell back on me last time. I was putting all the agendas and meetings and things on it, but it'd be good for other people to actually do a bit as well.
Celeste and then Jan.
I mean, we could maybe discuss it at the next meeting, but it'd be good to have a discussion with them informally just around the social media stuff, because we might want to look at some other channels like Instagram, and if we're looking to reach a wider audience, that is the responsibility we potentially share. And the other quick point I wanted to make is, when we get into the details, is about just having a policy of how we manage it, because if we comment as that page, people publicly will think that's the official view, so we just have to be careful to manage it.
Yeah, and yes, Yanni and then Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really concerned, like, we've got our second board meeting and we don't even have elected members' contact details up for the community board on the council's website. So I guess I just wouldn't want to take away from the base that's getting done at council.
Well, this wouldn't be the council doing.
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, I just think you need to have really clear protocols around what's said. Like,
yeah, agreed.
And I just wonder if it would become sort of overwhelming as well, rather than just using the normal council channel, because I can't understand why council wouldn't just run that so that it's regulated by management, not by elected members.
Well, I think the point of it is that management said they won't run it, and the point of it is to have something that is the elected board's voice.
It's not up to management to tell us what to do. We're the governance. Like, if we want to have a Facebook page as a community board, and I would have thought too, the other thing that I'm really keen to address is voter participation and turnout. And people don't even know who their new community boards are. There was almost no information going out around it. The staff have done an excellent job with the welcome pack, which is fantastic. But I think we should be thinking about that whole engagement and participation, and how we can make the most of that. But that's a role for the organisation as much as it is.
I have a question like you about around information on the website. Do you have any update on that, Chris?
I'm just looking now because I think it's there. If it's not, it's very short.
I can have 2 cents worth
Yep.
for you, Mr. Chair. So just prior to the board meeting starting, just seeking permission from non-councillor elected members to have their cell phones published to the website. So if you're opposed to that, if you can let me know offline, we don't have to deal with it right now. So work is happening to have the web pages updated. So every time we get a new piece of information, we're putting the IT request through to have that updated. So it's happening. We've not forgotten.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Alex.
Yeah, I just wanted to toast the county and Celeste's point, because obviously it's sort of it's great for the community, but there's a lot of precautions that we're going to have to take in regards to social media. But I did want to point out, if we were to proceed with it, there are ways to like link them together, like Instagram and Facebook will be the same, like one most one. But I think it needs to be a bit of discussion.
So I mean, we should move on from the Facebook issue, which they're thinking raising, but a simple way to manage it is that essentially nobody can post as a board, and we all just tag it in when we make something that we want to appear on the page, that we tag it in, tag the Facebook page, and then it appears there. But which is much easier to manage because then you know who's doing what. But we should talk about that later on. Before we come back to you, Joe, does anyone have a matter that they wanted to raise, like information request? Jackie?
Oh, no, I just had something I wanted to share.
Okay, go.
Share. Okay, just an update on, we had a meeting, Tracy McClellan was a meeting in the Wolston area, and the Wolston Prime, and I know that we may have similar problems in Brighton was drunkenness and disorderly behaviour, beggars and so on. So the meeting, went very well. I felt, there are certainly some people with some very serious concerns, and the police pretty much have said, well, you can start looking after your own community. Yeah. So I just want to flag it that we've had that meeting, and at some point down the line, I feel that we should be having a round the table discussion about the climate issues within our board area and what we can actually do about them, because I know there's not a lot we can do because we're not close, but at some point I'd like to have a discussion around that.
Yeah.
Just really quickly on that. So in the previous term, we plan to continue the next term. It's just inviting police to a briefing with the board so you can share, and they can share in return of the information, but it also gives you a chance to talk about some of those issues. So that'll be something that will start beginning in the meeting.
Very good. And just on that meeting, I'm sure a number of you have these kind of concerns, that we have in Wolston a vape store which has not been behaving well, and we know that they've been pinged for selling to underage. And I myself have made multiple complaints about, because I've seen the school age kids in the store, and goodness knows how many times I've actually sold. And since that store went in about a year ago, over a year, there's been nothing but trouble. And so and we do not have adequate regulation to deal vape stores, and we have 2 in Wolston Village as it is. I don't know if you have any here in Brighton, and if you have any issues with them, or anywhere else in the world. But
there's a couple of vape stores, and there's also one in Keys Road which just had a wee auction. You've got into trouble.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. So
100 metres away.
And it's really just the regulation is completely inadequate. And so thank you for raising the meeting, Jackie. Celeste, did you have anything you wanted to raise?
No, nothing at this point. I think I would just reiterate what Jackie said. I've met with some of the community groups and have heard also from local businesses, and I know it's not just restricted to New Brighton, but certainly I've heard that there's been some challenging issues with the antisocial behaviour. So I think whatever we can do to maybe connect with the relevant stakeholders, not just the police obviously, but the other parties that we'll need to have a conversation with. And there was some discussion around setting up a community safety partnership, I think, which was we'd set up in the past, and
So wanting to revisit that idea, so flagging this as something that we can look into further and maybe investigate what the options are.
Preliminary indications are that in terms of Wolseley, that police don't think a community, like their community police, neighbourhood policing team is viable. I haven't talked to them about it, that's what I've been told, but what they did say is they support the alcohol ban. They would support an alcohol ban. Yeah, so I mean, these issues are cropping up all around the suburban centres, so we have to deal with them one at a time, but hopefully we can get a few more bows or arrows in the quiver. Greg?
No, nothing at this stage.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just wanted to ask if we could get information back on when the craft projects are actually starting to be consulted with the communities. Like, they've been approved in April. A lot of them were approved in April.
Every time someone says crap, I hear crap and I have to...
Yeah, okay. The Christchurch Regeneration Acceleration Facility. And I know there was like one particular street that was held up within the ones that the Linwood Wolston had been approved. But given that they were approved on the 13th of April, which was before the T Kaha streets were agreed to in council's annual plan, and then those Te Kaha streets have already got glossy brochures, public consultation already happening, but the craft ones, we've got no visibility with our community over the designs or the progress. So I just wanted to ask if the board could actually get a time, like some key timeframes for when the community, all the work is going to be done on the craft projects within our area.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So recently I've spoken with one of the project managers in relation to the Linwood craft as well as the New Brighton craft, and it's on her radar to provide the board, the incoming Coastal-Burwood-Linwood Community Board, with a memorandum. So I will make contact with her and ask her to possibly include some timeline.
Could we put it like public facing? I'm just mindful that we had a lot of people engage in the process around what they wanted us to do with the craft, but those communities have like no visibility of where it's got to, what's been done when. So I think could we get that? Would that be generally kind of, we get the memo, but then it would be added to the area reports at the next board meeting so that we can actually see and share it with our community.
Yeah, I mean, we could have the memo on the agenda.
The memo will be attached to the area report, so it will be public facing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do we have any sense of like if there's any delays, or we just don't know yet?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So what part of the I don't know that much about this, but you have 83% delivery on the capital program in the last annual plan. I think it's annual plan, long plan. I can't remember, but you have 83% delivery of capital programs, and so in order to deliver additional capital program, it will mean that other stuff needs to fall out, because if you can't, what I mean, like, is it about prioritisation, council's prioritisation, capital programs for prioritisation, or is it something else? I don't know, but that's did pop into my head. It'll be good to know what the reason for the delay in the craft projects is.
Well, we don't know if there's a delay, so we can't really jump to that conclusion. But I guess the key thing is that how do we show progress to our communities, given that we made the decision on the 13th of April, and basically other projects are jumping ahead, but we're still not got.
So something in there about we note that we would like more information about the craft projects within the board area and where they are in the timeline.
And communication back to the community over progress. I think that's the key. And I just wanted to praise staff on the Brooklands newsletter. That was such an awesome newsletter. I don't know who did it. It was really, I was really impressed with that. And I thought it'd be really cool to have something like that going around the lower Hawaho Heathcote guidance plan, because there's a lot of projects happening there and a lot of interested communities. And it seems like it would have a lot of similarities around just the way in which we communicate.
Yeah, I mean, that might be something in terms of, because as Chris alluded to before, I think, is that there's staff resources going into, there's been a lot of resources gone into Brooklands, and if we want to focus on like the lower head pit, for instance, we would need to make that a priority of the board. Emily, you're welcome to come to.
The reason we had to start the e-newsletter is because there's no formalised group. So we literally had no contact other than a database, a very disengaged community. And so the newsletter was a starting point to then reach out to people. That's the reason that got going. Whereas in other areas it's not necessarily used as much because we have that ongoing relationship, which we do now in Brooklands, but it took the e-news to start something.
So if we can, I support the idea of getting something to deal with the issues around lower head pit, getting more information out there. But if we can note that for further discussion, I think. I'm conscious that you have a long list of things. So before I go on my long rant, I'll go back to you.
Okay, I was going to follow on from what Yanni just said about the crack. We've got the same issue with the Pages Road Bridge renewal in the Spruce and Linear. And this time last year, we were told that there would be consultation coming up with the community in February. And then it got put off until July, August. And now it's been put off until April. So it would be good to know the reasoning behind that and get an update on why, because the community still do not know what is happening with the bridge, what is happening with the street layouts to do with the bridge and everything. And I think it's really important that it's talked about now because it's over so many years through the process and we haven't made any headway on it.
We do have we did get a memo on it.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. A memo was sent to the board Friday, the 4th of November, to the Office of the Chief Executive. So that's the information that the project team have shared with the board at this stage. So when they do come back to brief the community board, then they will possibly be able to provide timelines as to when consultation will be undertaken. But until then, this is.
But I just it's important to let everyone else know that the consultation was meant to happen February, and it's been put off and put off and put off, and it's becoming farcical in a way.
I mean, I don't know what the precise complexities are. So it would.
Well, obviously, yes.
I'd like to understand more.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand more.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get on to my list.
Did you have a question?
Related to that.
Yeah.
Is there I did see the memo, is there, what date is the briefing on the
Easter.
Well, Easter?
Yeah, Easter next year.
Oh, that's the first briefing we're getting on. So can we request a briefing on that? Because I would echo what Joe's saying is that really the delays haven't been properly communicated, and I'll have a look at the memo, and there is quite a significant concern that really we need some clearer communication, and actually something that's perhaps in person would be really helpful.
I think that's quite reasonable to ask for an earlier one than Easter. Yeah.
So this side of Christmas would be my request.
Yeah, that might be more difficult. Yeah, but I mean, we can ask for it. But I suspect in the new year is more likely. But we can certainly ask. I don't mind.
Yeah, okay. I got an email yesterday about the New Brighton Christmas Parade, and did we want to be included in it? If we do, we get back to Martha at the project. In other years, we've had Phil turn up on one of his flash cars, and a couple of us go marching along. But so whether we want to do anything or not, it's going to be up to the board if they want to.
I don't have a flash car.
No,
sorry, what?
A flash car. Anyway, it's just something to think about, and you need to kind of make up your mind or email if you want to know more. I went to the first Coastal Hazards Adaptation Planning meeting a couple of weeks ago. That's for the Banks Peninsula tranche, and it was more or less getting to know each other and the plan about how the process is going to run. And it's going to probably take well over a year to do that before it comes to the coastal ward. But it's really good to actually just sit back, observe the process and learn and see how we can actually bring that back to us. The groups that I've been dealing with, the museum had the big garage sale. We went along to that. That's one of their fundraising projects. South Shore Residents Association had the Halloween event and a meeting, and hopefully we'll be involved in the online meeting this afternoon. Waimarie Beach Residents Association had a big yard sale the other weekend. Bouncy Castle community event, good to go along to be involved in the community. New Brighton Community Gardens had a really successful open day and raised thousands and thousands of dollars for themselves, and that was well attended by heaps of people. Most of you probably went along. I went to the council run June walk, and it was the coastal ranger Jason Roberts who actually had a group of probably about 30 people turn up and talked about the June history and restoration and planting and everything. So that was really informative. Spencerville Residents Association had their big community day on the 19th coming up, which is the Styx River cleanup and a duck race along the river, and then the community gala. So it's really good if you wanted to head along to that.
What's a duck race along the rivers?
Well, the duck race is rubber duckies.
Oh, okay, they don't
And
actually.
they all,
okay.
yeah,
So
each
where the
place
ducks
does
come
one up
from.
and everything, and then they go through and popular. They have something for the winners, and the surf club gets involved and they put people in the water.
What time is it?
It goes from like 11 till 1 till 3 till 5.
What day was it?
The 19th, Saturday the 19th.
How many thousands go, Vicky?
I don't know. I know it's a big event. I've seen.
No, it's only hundreds.
Is it?
Yeah.
If they need more, we've got some. We've got some extra duckies that we.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Ah,
So let us
they
know.
probably would
They're
like
just
that.
sitting in the office waiting to get back on the water.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's your opportunity. We had the last TTK event, which is the Te Tira Kahikuhiku group. That was the Redstone Transformative Group. So we actually just had a thank you for the work that we did in that group. And that's me.
Cool. Thank you very much, Greg.
I just remembered something actually that Kelly, since he's not here, probably wanted to mention was on the 20th, there's the Martians Hall Community Day at Martians Domain. Yeah, they've got Tom Walsh coming along as gunboot throwing judge, along with school bands from Chismelwood performing. It's from midday through 4, I believe.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to raise just a few things. There is the ongoing port link issue, which is the containers in Wilson. There is an ongoing investigation by council compliance, and because there's an ongoing investigation by compliance, council is not able to provide any information to residents or to anyone else apart from interacting, because it's an issue around natural justice. But needless to say, it's an issue for local residents. It's an environmental issue. There appears to be repeated breaches of the resource consent, and I just wanted to ask that the board supports Linwood around this, and that we ask for information. In North Linwood,
Sorry, just before
you want to on that?
Well, just before you move off that,
yeah,
the board asked for March this year for information. So I think you probably need to be a bit more directive, because between the time when the board asked for the information, the containers just showed up before the information came back, and the information that came back wasn't very helpful to understanding all the realities of what was going to occur.
And I'm aware that we have, so a bit more information, I'm aware that we have the previous board asked for information in March 2022. And then the residents have been told that they would get information about on the 21st of October. We said that would be a couple of weeks. And then following week, I said it would be within about a week. This is, as far as I'm aware, they've still not been given information. Now, it would suggest to me that that would be a very complex compliance issue, and it's been taken very seriously, but it's very difficult when your people being kept up awake at night, when their houses are being vibrated, when the view of the hills has been blocked, where there's runoff going into the river. It's very difficult for people to be patient. I mean, the board can reiterate the formal resolution, but I think I would like to ask for a briefing about the ongoing issues with containers in Woolston, I think. Okay. Did you have anything on that, Jackie? Right.
I'm just tracking it.
Yeah. I just wanted to also raise in North Linwood, which...
Sorry, just before I should just disclose that I live opposite the development as well. So yeah, I just, in terms of being transparent about that.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of, I just want to say with North Linwood, which is a tranche of work that had been in a long-term plan for resurfacing the roads and doing curb and channels, and the roads are in really bad condition. But also they're very wide roads, like 17-metre wide roads, and so local resident has been in touch, wanting interested in more street trees and more parking. I just want to request information about what was currently in the long-term plan for that North Linwood area, which by I mean is Buckley's, Woodham and Woodave, that triangle. In terms of Mesa's Zuru Road, we've had a discussion on email, but I just want to note that we'd like to see all of Mesa's Road resurfaced.
That hasn't been.
Some of it's okay. Yeah, there hasn't been. So yeah, this because of the lack of lights on the intersection of Dyers and Mesa's Road, trucks use a lot more of Mesa Zulu Road than they would otherwise. So related to that, I would really like the board support contact with NZTA or Kotahi to ask about the viability of lights at the Mesa Dyers intersection. So if we could ask for a meeting or a briefing, that would be really good. And just two points. I know that we get information about the wastewater treatment plant and the organic processing plant, but just wanted, Jackie.
The organics processing plant has got its meeting on Tuesday. It's coming Tuesday at 6:30 at the Linwood boardroom. For those of you who don't know, this is an issue that's been going on for over a decade.
We smelt it on the way here.
And there are some very, very unhappy residents, but we do, I mean, the council have agreed in principle to move it, but we really need to move them along. It needs to actually not drop that ball because it's been dropped too many times.
Just on that, could we invite maybe ECAN to come and brief the board about what they're doing? Because if you read the latest report, it's really concerning that there's been lots of complaints, there's been some investigations, but they're saying that it's not being offensive or objectionable, but because it's low odour, which doesn't match the reality of what people have been going through. But it might be quite good to just hear from ECAN because they're also exceeding the dust limits as well. And yeah, it just also might be nice to invite the new ECAN councillors that are being elected or re-elected to come and make a relationship with the board over an issue. And this would seem like a pretty important one for us.
Oh, also, there's two. Yeah, there's the ECAN staff asking for a briefing around compliance, monitoring and enforcement around the organic processing plant. And then there's a second one where we would invite the ECAN councillors for Ōhoko and Ore, because they cover, they both overlap, to meet with us formally or informally. I don't have a preference at this point, but it would be good to establish a relationship. Just in terms of there are other odour issues in Bromley. There's a mussel factory, and there is also a lot that that is supposed to be wetting its dust. So it'll be getting bad right now, and it's having an effect on their neighbours. I would like more information about those things. So I just wanted to shadow those little. Celeste.
Just to round out the smells, is it possible to get an update as part of that on the independent review that council has agreed to? One of the resolutions that was put forward a while ago was about getting an independent review on the sort of social recovery response to the wastewater treatment plant, and we're waiting for an update on the terms of that. So if we can request that as a board, we might speed it along a little bit.
Right. Yeah, sounds good. And the other thing, which you may or may not be aware of, is that there's been a draft of the Future for Local Government report that's been released, so not related to a smell at all. Where there is a big emphasis on subsidiarity, so decision making being made close to the communities that are affected, which to me sounds like community boards. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in it too, but I would like to see community boards having, when it comes to the Christchurch City Council's submission, I'd like to see community boards having a role in that. So, yeah.
Thanks. Just if it was helpful for Celeste's point, which I'm really glad you raised, is the council's asked the CEO to advise on scope and timetable, commission an external independent review into response to the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant fire on July 28th. So maybe the community board could ask the council to ask the CEO when she is likely to advise the council, and then request that the board gets advised too on that. But if it's helpful, I've got the actual resolution. I don't know what the process is around these things being elevated, but just support that. And then the only other thing I wanted to raise was that I just felt a bit concerned in terms of the community board that I'm just interested in how we develop relationships with the Māori and Pacifica communities within our board area. And I feel like maybe we haven't really done that at the start of the term when we've been sworn in and now at our first meeting. But is there a process that we've got looking forward, or can we come up with some ideas around how we might be able to do that? Just given the demographics within our board's area, to me, it seems like a pretty important part of engagement and relationship building that would be really good to understand either what we've got planned or what we might be able to do.
I do think that's important. Did staff have anything to?
I don't, not at this stage, but we're happy to have a conversation with the board in terms of what you would like in terms of that relationship in the future and how best to go about.
I mean, I think it's not something that we can say, we want a relationship and we just like, we need to have we need some more, we need to do a look, but have a bit more of a bit more think about how we do it.
Yeah, and also I think council, has cultural advisors, so we need to make sure that we're getting advice and support from them over what we do, especially when we've got briefings or other matters of cultural significance. I think that's really important. And also the previous Linwood Central Heathcote, or actually the Higley Ferrymead Keyboard, did have an MOU with the Otatahi Runanga. So it'd be nice to know that that's either continued or what's the status of it, and whether there's any connections that have been carried across from the board being just abolished.
Right.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think this board is, I don't know everybody that well, but from what I know of some people, is the eager to do that, eagerness there is there. and it's a good board, and your Waikato at the beginning was brilliant. So I think we could make progress this term.
Yeah, I feel very, very encouraged, by this first meeting. We're not at the end yet, so, who knows what will happen, but, I do think, there is a lot of goodwill and eagerness. So I think if we seek staff advice on how best to, engage with, in particular Māori and Pacific Island communities, that would be good. While Cindy and I sort out the resolution and notes from.
I've got one more. I remember.
Oh, okay.
The caretaker's cottage at.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have an update on that?
So I can provide an update on that. Dione had asked the other day also. So the previous community board laid the report on the table, seeking further information. Staff are in the process of gathering that information in a memorandum form in which they're just waiting on approval. Once that has been approved, that will be attached to the original staff report that went through to the previous Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board, and it will go to the first available meeting of this community board as soon as it's been authorised. So if we can't get it through, it's not likely to get through to the 21st of November because the agenda closed off.
That's a good answer.
Has happened, but hopefully in December or the beginning of the new year.
All right, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes while Sandy and I sort out the notes and resolutions from this, and then we'll come back and do that and pass that, and hopefully, and then we can close the meeting. And I'm going to get a little drink of water. So.
Just use the string.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
She would have.
So
Yeah.
All right, members, the meeting has reconvened. So after conferring with the governance team, so what we'll do is we'll just note all those things will be noted in the minutes, and we will because in order to make a resolution, things need to be on the public agenda. So those things will all be noted down and followed up. But bear in mind also that we have put a lot of things and that the number of things that we have raised, is this wide, and we have to do bits at a time. And as the priorities of the board, as the board become more clear and we have our plan and stuff, then we'll have more of a sense of what the priority issues are. And also the level of interest that we show as individual members in those particular things will indicate what the priorities are. With that being the case, two things. One is I will close the meeting with the karakia whakamutanga, and I ask members to stay for 5 minutes and invite informally. I'm going to invite I think it's Tui.
Kia ora. Hi. Sorry, I've been sitting here doing as I'm told.
If you would give us 5 minutes of your time, lovely to hear from you. I've been well advised. So I'll close the meeting and invite everybody to stand if you like. And the karakia will be on the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Unehia, ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, te ara takata, koe rā I rono, whakairia aki te rono, kia tina, hui e, tai e. Thank you. Now the meeting closed.